Hello everyone, Keith here, and on today's episode of Tech Lab, we're going to be looking at the XandrOS desktop OS today. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Tech Lab, the show where we talk about anything and everything tech-centric. Today, I thought it'd be a good idea to look at the XandrOS desktop OS. Admittedly, I meant to look at this operating system way back in high school, but unfortunately, I could just never find the thing. It was, at that point, I don't know why, it was really hard to find, but it's one of the few Linux distributions out there that you actually have to pay for. Because of that, well, I couldn't really get around to it until around this time period when I actually had the resources available to me to go ahead with this. So, to go about this, we're going to unbox, install, and do a general overview of this entire operating system. So let's go ahead and start with the unboxing. Okay, so the case itself, it's your typical case. What are you gonna do? You have your usual flare on the front, you have your usual flare on the back. It also details what all you get with the standard version. You have your typical screenshots, a very nostalgic Real Player logo. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, Real Player was a good media player in its day, and I wish it hadn't gone belly up. I mean, it might still be around, but I have no idea. So, outside of that, you have a case badge, interestingly enough. To be perfectly honest, I find that incredible. I find that unbelievable. Like, you don't really see that anymore. Now, of course, occasionally Microsoft might do that, but everyone else just kind of brushed it off as just a weird thing of its time. And case badges in general just kind of disappeared. You also have the instruction manual. You also have a printed end-user license agreement behind this, but I'm not going to dig that out. You also have the serial number, which surprisingly you don't actually use during the installation. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. So there we have it. Let's go ahead and jump back over to the computer really quickly and get this burned onto an ISO image, so that way we can just jump right to the installation without having to worry about CD load times. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so really quickly, we're going to go ahead and make a digital copy of this ISO, because while we can boot it into VirtualBox physically, it's just taking way too long to read, and I don't know, there must be something off there, because that was a Blu-ray drive having this kind of trouble. So clearly, maybe the drive's just kind of old now, I don't know. So, let's go ahead and go into IMG burn. Try to, come on, sometime today, thank you. Okay, so, the next thing we're going to do is go into, not really sure what I was thinking there, but okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an image file from the disk. Okay, so this one is going to go in storage. And we're just going to let it run. Just going to leave it alone. Let it do its thing. And if all goes well, we should be able to boot this into VirtualBox with no trouble at all. Because I don't remember how long this takes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we've just finished the ISO. So the next thing we're going to do is put the disk away here. Maybe. I don't know why it takes so long for the drive to open. Yeah, admittedly the disk looks alright. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install this in a virtual machine. This way we'll be able to actually record the process without too many issues. Alright folks, so let's go ahead and just hop right to it. Let's see, VirtualBox. Yeah, but yeah, this kinda took a bit, so my apologies in advance. So, to set up XandrOS to be installed in a virtual machine, the first thing you're going to need to do is just type in XandrOS up here. We're going to go ahead and do the full memory size for this. And we're going to do excuse me, sorry. We're just going to go ahead and do 50 gigabytes to keep things moving. So the next thing you're going to need to do is go into System, go into Storage, and delete the SATA hard drive that was set up, because that is not going to work for this. Instead, you're going to need to go into IDE and create a new hard disk for that. While we're here, we're also going to mount the virtual disk for... We're also going to mount the virtual disk. And I have mine way in... I have mine, like, super hidden at the moment. I've got to stop doing that. And we need to fix this really quickly. We need to disable VT/AMDV. We can't really use it, so that's not going to work. We're going to max out the video memory. We can enable 3D acceleration, but 2D doesn't work on this. So, everything seems to be in working order. We only have one CPU we only have one process for this. Everything else seems to be okay, so we're just going to go ahead and hit start. So, we'll be right back when the actual setup starts. My apologies in advance, this process takes forever, especially on a first attempt. But, all things considered, I'd say the overall user interface is pretty nice. So, yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, I think, yep, bingo. Alright, we're in. So, unfortunately, this particular virtual machine can't just capture the mouse as you're pulling it through. You'll have to click on the window to do this, so that kind of sucks. So the installation process is about the same as something like Windows. It gets the job done about as well as it can. And admittedly, you won't have any trouble from me. Let's see, do we have it? Yes, we do. Alright. I tend to type out passwords when it's absolutely required. I think we got all that right. Alrighty, let's go. CSE 2020. Ah, shit. I'm kind of doing this so if it wasn't obvious already, I'm kind of doing this episode last minute. Let's go ahead and... And, yeah, there we go. That takes care of that in a nutshell. And, since we've already used this, we're going to minimize this here. And once this is done installing, we will go to the user interface. So, another time jump, here we go. Actually, now that I think about it, since we already have it from a previous version, let's go ahead and power this one on while the other one is doing its thing. And right out of the gate, once the install is done anyways, you have a couple of booting options, and I'm sorry if that looks weird, but we won't do that again. So naturally the boot screen, because you can dual boot with something like Windows XP, means that you have a few options should you decide to do it. You can boot into the desktop, you can boot into a save video mode, or you can boot into a configuration mode. So for this, we're going to go ahead and boot into the desktop mode, and presuming everything goes well, we should be alright. Let's go check on the other install while we're waiting on this. Alright. I've moved my installable XandrOS over here, over onto my Discord monitor to make things quick. So we're gonna go ahead. So we're gonna go ahead and log in really quick. Like, you have to log in. It's kind of annoying. So this one I think I set up for this password, but I might be wrong, because this is kind of a mess. This episode really was put together in a hurry. Let's see, the other ones, it's taking forever to install. Oh, there we go. Okay, so yeah, ta-da. We're already at the desktop. Wasn't that quick? So let's go ahead and just take a look around. First off, you have a few options in regards to how you want your display to look. And you also have screensavers. I'm curious. I want to see how that looks. Oh, never mind. But let's see here. So right out of the gate, it feels very Windows-esque by design, if you catch my drift. And looks like the other installer is done. I don't really need you anymore. Okay, so we're back here. Right. So now, yeah, naturally, this is about how it looks. Now, of course, this isn't the only option you have as far as this particular setup goes. As a matter of fact, you can actually set up your display to look a bit different, because you have a couple of different themes you can work with. Let's see here. Well, this is the KDE theme. You also have themes for stuff like Windows and Mac, and honestly, I feel like I like this one the best, just because it just genuinely looks a bit better, and I honestly don't really have any complaints about it, at least from what I've used so far. Admittedly, though, it was certainly a shock to see this back. Well, to see this again, because Real Player is an incredibly old video player. I don't even know if it's actually still around. Let's find out. Yeah, let's just go ahead and assume maybe they're still around. Now, of course, I don't really have anything I could play because I don't really have a virtual folder set up for just random test videos. If I'm going to be doing more of these OS videos, I should really get into the habit of that. But anyways, that's excuse me. That's not the only option you have. The Mozilla browser, which is kind of like Firefox except super old. Well, I say super old, but I really mean it's only old by 2004 standards. Now, it may not feel like a long time ago, but I imagine to some people it probably feels like an eternity. This browser is actually still usable, believe it or not. You can go on to stuff like Google with it, and I even managed to get onto the old net with it just a little while ago. Sorry, I can't talk. I'm sorry, my ability to talk just kind of went... Jeez. Let's see here. Of course, you have a few options. I don't know. Oops. There we go. Ha! Oh, goodness. I remember this website all too well. Always dinked around on it way back when. Granted, we were messing around with it all the way into high school, so that tells you how long this one lasted, and that was back in 2016. But clearly, shut up. Yeah, this is another problem you're going to run into. You're going to be hitting a lot of buttons to try and get things moving. But yeah, you have this old... You can access stuff like the old net to whatever that entails. Yeah, now actually getting onto something like YouTube on here is a different story. Because it kind of works and it kind of doesn't. Like, it'll get into the website, but that's it. You don't have any videos or anything like that, so, you know, that's kind of a bummer. So what else could you do on here? Well, this thing has the OpenOffice set of Office applications, which is nice, I guess. I'm familiar with OpenOffice. They're a good brand. Don't have much going for them, though. You have some system utilities and all that. And you also have a first run wizard, which is interesting. Oh. Okay, so you can simulate different systems. This is what I was talking about earlier, in case you didn't know. You have KDE, Unix, Microsoft Windows, and Apple Mac OS. Just for curiosity, we're gonna take a look at that, and well, so it basically has yes. So essentially, it has the theme of old Mac OS, like the ones from way back before OS X was really starting to become uber relevant, and, you know, a little cheaper. It just kind of has the color scheme of that. Because of that, it looks a little, I don't know, washed out. It doesn't look, honestly, it could look a lot better. So, we're just gonna go ahead and switch back here, because I didn't mind the old one. I thought it looked nice. Let's see, that was the KDE. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, of course, you also have games on here, too, which is kind of neat. You also have a graphics thing, digital camera, for whatever that entails. You also have Paint. So, that's nice, I think. Other than that, I never really thought about what I could actually do with this OS because of how old it is. But, officially speaking, XandrOS basically disappeared a long time ago. Some of its elements were worked into the Windows sequel OS, Linspire, but we'll get into that later on. So, with that, oh yeah, and also as far as games go, you don't really have much here. You have your typical ones, Asteroids, Backgammon, Solitaire, and Minesweeper. Oh, I'm dead. Ah. Oh, there we go. Never mind. What can I say? Minesweeper's a game of luck. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and jump back to real footage now. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. You can try XandrOS if you want. I'll leave a link to the virtual machine for this in the description below. Because, while you can try it for yourself and try to get it installed, I feel like it's a lot easier for you to just kinda mess around with it. And don't worry, I'll make sure to leave the password for you guys, just to make life a little easier there too. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Well, folks, there you have it. That's pretty much the whole process done and over with. So, if you like what you saw, great. If you didn't, that's not so great, but thanks for watching anyways. We'll see you all next week when we look at the Arcade 1-Up Partycades. Have a good one.